This is a very good a point, like I was talking about yesterday, and it's something that's been plaguing me a little bit. That it's tongue in cheek, it's kind of a joke, but you never know who's going to watch some of these videos. They may not be your homies in Los Angeles, or that are along the same mindset as you. I mean, they're compartmentalizing people everywhere, so they might get the wrong impression. So elaborate. It's just like, again, it kind of as Neil House said. I love that he pointed that out. That we have this generation coming through here, which is kind of corny that they're labeling baby boomers and Gen X, but perfectly timed with our generation, perfectly timed with the demographic and all that, are these Hollywood movies every year of Rosemary's Baby, The Omen, The Exorcist, matching exactly. Well, the bulk of the children being born right now are at this age or that age of this generation. So it's he points out, like, this was the view of apparently the government and whatnot. And then you say, well, that's ridiculous. Check this out, and you can research this if you do not believe me. It's a movie, of course, of iconic value to all of us, and it's funny because it's the movie that, if I say to somebody, between the ages of, I say, 35 and 55, what is the scariest movie you've ever seen? Give them 30 seconds to think about it. I guarantee you, I probably will win. I'm not going to put a lot of money down on this in saying, I bet you I know what they're going to say. Okay. Now let's not think about, let's briefly skim over this particular movie. When you think about it, you don't want to think about it, but you know that movie so goddamn well that you have conquered it in a sense, and it was used to attack you. That movie is The Exorcist. Now, when that movie came out, people fainted in the theaters. Like there was ambulances called to theaters. It was the first movie where like there were people, like there wasn't shootings, like people were dying of heart attacks across the country. Things like that were going on. Like it wasn't about the movie. It was about the trauma of seeing that movie, which you can understand, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like if you saw that at age 8, you didn't sleep for a month minimum. And I find out later on, and to tell people this, some are just like, that's just so typical, or that's just impossible. But just look it up, research it. William S. Blatty is the writer and author of that movie and directed the movie The Exorcist. Great first time for him in the motion picture industry. In fact, he's coming out of a different career, which, I've really never heard of this before. He was chief operations of psychological warfare for the Air Force. And then he wrote a movie, and now he's, you don't hear about that other part, but it says it in his biography. Yeah, he was a diplomat, and he was chief of psychological warfare for the U.S. Air Force. His only experience had been in the military until 1971, and then in 72, The Exorcist comes out. By coincidence, being probably the chief movie of psychological warfare against an entire generation. That's exactly what I would have said. That's funny. So it's a weird coincidence because I really was going to. This has got to be fake. They're going to debunk this story. The guy you're telling me, the guy who William S. Blatty, I know that name. I remember seeing it in the credits. I haven't seen the movie in a while. That guy, you're trying to tell me this got to be bullshit. You've got to research this 100,000 times over. And it got to the point where I was visiting the town he grew up in and talking to his grandmother. It's true. How did we not get informed of that? But see, it's backfired because now, I can say things like, much too vulgar display of power. And you know what I'm talking about. And you laugh because you're like, that bitch. Because I've seen possessed people. They're not like that. That is such a gross interpretation of a possessed person. We all probably are possessed at one point or another during the day. I could be possessed right now by a spirit of, I don't know, some, gay fashion singer or something in Hollywood. Hey, it comes out different in everyone. Nonetheless, a priest from the Vatican kind of echoed what I said. She said, possession is a lot more common than you would want to know. And I'm like, I know what he meant by that. Do you think possession, I'm talking about like running around crazy with wine coolers, in front of the girls' high school. That's the rare occasion. I'm saying, like, what got into him? Watch what little do you know, right? Careful what you say. You see some people warn me about it. Like, careful what you say, because don't you realize your language is creating curses and this and that? And then you realize, oh, I just did by warning people. Then no one says anything, and they just imply that, you all should know. But again, on the whole MK Ultra, I don't know what's going on there. I do know one thing. And you can trust me on this. Okay. Um, there is definitely some very powerful force out there that either for some sort of training method of like rite of passage, someone's fucking playing with us. Someone is playing with us because, I don't want to come out and admit my true experience with drugs and drinking and sex and lighting fires and kissing black people and this. But I know that this is bullshit. I'm not saying I'm that cultured in this and that, but I kind of am. Like, I can bring this up to anybody that is within 50 fucking miles of me or 50 years of age of me, and they would say, this is ridiculous. Where did you get this crap? And I'm like, dude, this is like what they aired on TV for America. I got to stand up for Jesus on this. You know what I mean?
I was trying to love before, but I was so full of hatred and everything for society that I just didn't know what real love was. And now that I've got real love, and now that I really know how I can help people, I just don't need to go down and burn down buildings anymore, or hang around with freaks, or I don't need to run through crowds and kiss black people to make the society see what they're doing. I don't need to ride motorcycles just for the feeling of freedom and power anymore.
The children of God depend on Him to provide all their earthly needs. There is no private property. New members must sign over all goods and income to the group. Most of their food comes from special teams which canvass the restaurants and markets of nearby cities for edible cast-offs.
To promote their search, and this is why at young ages you'll find kids 12, 13, 14 who are chain smokers, who have taken drugs at great lengths. Yeah, by the time I was 17, I had already shot up.
This guy, okay, you know A Million Little Pieces? I was on Oprah to help James Frey on that book. You know, I always talk about that. I just sarcastically tag Oprah now. I mean, that book, they said his story sounded so impossible that he got sober and you know, all the drugs that he took. Okay, if you've read that book, wait till you hear this guy. This guy parties more than I did, dude. And I'm like, I tried to do what he did, and I'm like, it's not scientifically possible. He's lying. He's got to be lying. But he's damn good at it. He even brings up the Lily 40 caps when he says he ODs because there is no God. And he told his mom that too, and she knows it. She should have died also, because you know this is real. This is how it was back then, or they thought people would think. Now, who's the son of a bitch that greenlit this operation?
LSD in heavy doses, 7 or 8 tablets at a time, crushed up in a spoon. I'd shot methadone, heroin, Seconal, Truanol, cocaine, and I'd done everything you could do with LSD and hallucinogenic drugs, and I'd gotten to the point where heroin, all I did was make people go to sleep, and I didn't dig that anymore. So when it came down to it, I really didn't have anything but big lumps on my arms and poor circulation. So I just went home one day, and I told my mom, and she asked me what I was doing, and I really didn't know. And I went in my room and took out 30 Seconal caps. They were Lilly F40s, and I just took them all at once, right in front of her. I said, you see these? I'm going to die now because there's nothing else worth living for. And you're not living for anything worth anything either. And so I just took them, and I passed out on the floor. Came to an emergency ward with a psychiatrist next to me, wanted to know why I'd done it. And I told him because there wasn't a God, there wasn't anything. So he asked me if I'd like to submit myself for 2 weeks in a mental institution for observation. Somehow I got in there for 3 months. And when I was in there, I got put in charge of the drug dispensary for some reason to keep it clean. And so I ended up selling drugs for cigarettes and candy and stuff in the mental institution. And I had a conscience against taking drugs. I knew it was wrong. You know, I was really guilty about it. A lot of times I'd just flip out because I knew I was doing something wrong with taking LSD. But they were telling me that everything's okay as long as you're not do it in excess. That people's problems come from getting too hung up in one thing. So in other words, homosexuality was okay. You could be a bisexual as long as you didn't get too tripped up in it. Drugs were okay, the whole thing. And I had 2 nurses bringing me marijuana on the weekends because I got tired of pharmaceutical drugs. They made your mouth taste bad. I mean, I was into drugs that heavy. I met a doctor in there who was in there for shooting up morphine, and I made a contact with when I got out. I was getting pharmaceutical drugs from him and giving the 2 girl technicians what they couldn't get at the hospital to them. Well, they turned me on to grass from Mexico. They told me that I was sexually frustrated when I needed therapy, and they tried that for 2 weeks when I got out. But I just didn't dig jumping in a closet with a gallon of Westonol with 3 chicks stoned on acid, you know, and just things like that.
Now, this is not, you know, a fashion thing with me. I know a lot of people know me. I don't know where they are today, but I don't think they would change their story when I just heard that story, I am more threatened by the, you know, self-criticism and criticism of, yes, a God or a divine entity, a higher power. If I were to lie to you and say, that didn't sound fucking awesome. Now, I know that's not right. Those, you know, days are not necessarily the best. But you take the whole Mary Magdalene, Jesus Christ bullshit story, but you put it in fact, and you say Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love, and you say there is some, it sounds stupid, but that's why you know that there's truth in it. And you realize there is some value in come as you are, as you were. Okay? I really think keeping it authentic and real to who you are, even if that means being sexually frustrated with two girls who are getting you pot and your connect is also a fucking pharmacist at the hospital. I mean, talk about a lottery ticket win right there. It's bad. I'm not promoting it, but not many people get to live that moment. And we know enough about the 60s and the 70s and this and that whether it's Jimi Hendrix or it is Jesus Christ, we're not going to deny the beauty of that moment. And that guy's telling it like it's a nightmare. It's like the NA meetings. Don't stand up and say, I'm so happy I'm no longer on opiates. No, stand up and say, dude, it sucks that I can't be on drugs because I felt so good on them, but my life does not work. And I will die if I keep taking them. But I'm not happy that I can't take them. I wish it would have worked out. It's like trying to be a ballet dancer. I don't have the body for it. It was a dream and I had to abandon it. But I'm not going to lie to you and say that I don't still wish I was a ballet dancer on drugs. But in NA meetings, it's all about being honest, being real, a higher power, and these people who I know are in pain and wish they could feel that poppy seed rush. They can't go back there, but they wish they could feel good because they're in pain right now. Stand up and say, I'm so happy that I can't take drugs anymore. And then they'll start telling these awesome stories about the parties they had and my friends, and everyone's laughing and stuff. They finished it off with, but anyways, thank God those days are over. I'm honest and real. And then sit down. And it leaves you with a, damn, I can't even find it in NA or AA meetings. Where is the truth?